House of the Dragon ain't up to much. It isn't, is it? If we got to episode 6, it's not. And I'm going to tell you why. Bonjour. Right, come on. It started off good. I'll give you that. Started off good. Episode 6. Oh no, episode 5 with the wedding. And then episode 6 with a cat fight. Oh, come on, guys. And I was trying to figure out why I was the only one. I did like the first episode. Matt Smith, everything he's in, even in episode 6, every scene he stills. Yeah, he's kind of like they set him up as the show's new Cersei. He didn't know what he's going to do next and all the rest of it. Fine. And episode 1 delivered. It kind of like, I loved it because they was trying to make up for the series 8 of Game of Thrones, and they put everything, they stuffed everything they could into episode 1. Tits, arse, gore, swearing. They set out their stall very, very well and said that meat is back on the menu, to coin a phrase of another franchise. And I did enjoy it. I enjoyed episode 1 as a setup, and I think episode 2, the story gets going in a good pace again. You know, just colouring in the new characters and filling in, you know, the backstory that we come to know through Game of Thrones and had lived with for all those years. For years we lived with it and loved it. And here was a show that was saying, look, sorry guys about last time. I'm going to make it up to you. Now episode 3. Now that was rock and roll from the beginning. On the beach with the old Mr. Krabs and his men and the dragons coming down. Oh yeah, it was kicking right off. And Damon's on top of the dragon and he's having it. Right. Now what we got to do is pause a minute. Now from at the end of episode 3, he takes on, he suddenly decides, and this is for me where it all, I was kind of going, you know, dot, and, you know, because all the acting's fine and the CG's good for the most part. But the way this episode ends with, and they're trying to whip up all the time, and they built him up, old Mr. Krabs, lovely, and, you know, Damon, awesome. Without a doubt, I think everyone who's liking this show would admit he's the star of the show, lights up the screen when he's in it. But it's too much how the end of the episode ends. So now he decides that he can't kill him with a dragon, which is correct because they're all scurrying into their tunnels, aren't they? Fine. But why he hasn't had this apostrophe moment, like right at the start of the battle, and he didn't sit down with all his strategists and all the rest of it? Because what he decides to do is stand on the top of the hill on his own and lure everyone out for the dragon to attack. Now, come on. And then he runs through, you know, it was like 300. The rain of arrows coming down. Now, if at the end of 300, what's his name, Gerard Butler, had just gone, oh no arrows can hurt me, you know, my wings are a shield of steel and all that. Pathetic, and I know it was from a real story anyway, but you know what I'm getting at? The arrows were coming, I think he gets a couple of light flesh wounds, and he's teased out all the men to be killed by the dragon. Why they didn't adopt this strategy at the beginning, it just wound me up. It was like he was like an Arthurian Rambo. He was just cascading through, and the arrows, and he was running, and he was jumping and diving. It was totally, another thing as well, it was kind of totally out of sync with everything. It doesn't suit game. You have the moments, now set a character up, like in Game of Thrones, set up the mountain, like to have an arm chopped off and then a leg chopped off and say, it's only a flesh wound. You know, give us some of that. But don't just have things happen again. But what I was doing is I was making allowances, and also I was not only making allowances because I was enjoying this, and up to episode 3 and up to the ending, and I still enjoyed how it was staged and all the rest of it, and it was all done very well. It was all very well accomplished, and I'm also comparing it to Rings of Poo-Poo, and you know, anything compared to that is gonna be great in it. So these battle scenes bookend the episode, and it's built up, and we've been told about our Mr. Krabs since, you know, more or less the beginning of episode 1. So we have 3 episodes build up. Oh yeah, Damon's gonna get him, and then he turns up at the mouth of a cave holding half the body up. Oh, so they've done well with all the battles. You kind of see a battle scene at the beginning, you kind of see a battle scene at the end, but they don't give you the crescendo of him and Mr. Krabs. Why? Why have you not shown that? And I'm not. And you, if any of you have listened to my ramblings, you know I'm not the one that just wants to see everything and be told everything and be shown it in graphic detail. But surely in a fantasy series, we wanted to see a sword fight between 2 of the main protagonists. I mean, we hadn't seen a lot of Mr. Krabs, to be fair. So it wouldn't exactly have been like Obi-Wan versus Vader exactly, but in the original film, not the soapy tit wank from Dismal Minus, you just get him lifted up and like, oh, that's great then. We have to imagine, and it really works sometimes when you leave things up to the audience's imagination. It really does work, and I'm a big fan of that. That wasn't the time. That wasn't the time. Now episode 4. So I'm thinking, oh, that was a bit moody. That was a bit moody, the ending of that. But episode 4 was a properly intriguing, character-driven episode with mostly the story of Damon trying to, you know, as part of his Machiavellian plot, is getting Daenerys in trouble, and you can see it coming, and that's the delight of it. You know he's the naughty bastard uncle, isn't he? He's like the naughty uncle, and we all know it, but she loves him to bits. And anyway, and some of the scenes in the King's Landing, the underbelly of King's Landing, I thought were done really well. They were done hauntingly. It was dark and menacing, and she's seeing real people, and he's saying, look, you know, get out a bit, love, because part of the episode they did hammer it home a bit. But anyway, but you allow it. I mean, I'm not expecting Oscar worthy. That was so all right. I'm not expecting, you know, full on battle scenes every episode. And so for me, 1, 2, you know, it was like 1 and 2, and then 3, and then 4, and then 5. Oh God, then 5, the wedding. Nothing makes sense in that. For me, nothing made sense in this episode. And this is where I had my apostrophe moment, right? Because what I'm thinking is, because I was the only one. I mean, I discussed it with Space Lizard and Taters on Hogcast, and another YouTuber got involved. Big shout out to Midlife Nerded, by the way, who made me watch episode 6, and I'm glad I did, so thank you for that. And hopefully they'll be making an appearance. We're going to sort that out. But anyway, shout out Midlife Nerded. I'll see if I can work out and get a link in the because her videos are a lot slicker than mine, to be fair. Anyway, I still like them. Now I've lost my track. Now I've lost my train of thought, and I was really going on a good rant there. Anyway, I was the only one. Hogcast 5. Taters, Space Lizard, and a couple of people on the live chat. I was the only one that really didn't like. I'm not saying I hated it or detested it, or was, and I know I'm getting into a bit of a hog rant, and I am now, because the more I think about it, the more we are putting up with subpar entertainment, and a lot of it is down to Rings of Power being out. I think if House of Dragon had been released on its own, and it just the only fantasy show in town, I think we would have been ripping the piss out of it a lot more. As in, when I say we, I mean the YouTube and critical community, whatever you want to call all us knobs that care about all this stuff. Because it is, in my opinion, it is subpar. And it was from the beginning, but you always give a new series allowances, and it had a lot of ground to make up for, and they were showing a lot of enthusiasm, so I was on board with it all. They dropped the ball for me massively with episode 5, with a wedding episode, and all it was just fannying around for fannying around's sake. And all it is, for me, and I had my apostrophe moment, because I had to think about it after the Hogcast, and everyone, I seem to be the only person, I'm not saying like I detest it, I'm just saying I had my issues, I've got a problem with this show. And what it is it's supposed to be a fantasy story. Sometimes it's called sword and sorcery, like Conan, and instead of it being a boring just blokes with sandals and swords like a Roman epic, it's got the magic element, the spiritual element to it, the sword and sorcery, and that livens it up and that makes it a fantasy. Game of Thrones, yeah. Now I know they didn't cram it all in. They didn't cram it all into the first season, but we had the Wall, Night's Watch, White Walkers, Direwolves, Lord of Light. We had the Mountain, we had the Maesters, and I know they're not magic, but you know, they were the chemists, they were the kind of like early day wizards. We had wildlings, and we had the big fuck off giants with the wildlings, and you know, and we only saw them sometimes in, you know, and it was only spoken in whispers and etc, etc, etc. And the dragon, it built up for years and years and years to the dragons. But in this one, we have got the dragons. And that is my point. Take the dragons out of this series, and all you've got is a soap opera in fancy clothes. You've just got, like episode 6, you've got a cat fight between the Queen and the Princess, and what a jarring episode. Unless I don't know, unless that's going to liven up, but it's almost like making allowances again and starting from episode 1 again. Because now this seems like any momentum they did build up and ending in episode 5, ridiculous fight, and no one steams in. If there's going to be a bundle at a wedding, I mean, this is the king and the princess and the royalty, and they just let someone murder someone. You know, it was literally, as someone once said, murder on the dance floor, right? And they just stood by. I mean, I don't know if it's a tradition. Maybe I missed that bit because I was doing other things, you know. I started to, you know, I mean, I'm not even on track book, but I wished I was, because I was looking at my phone for a few moments in the episode thinking, oh, what else can I do till this livens up? Anyway, episode 6, and I've had my apostrophe. There's no fantasy in it. Think about it, guys. I'm trying not to get you on my side, but just have a think about. I don't want anyone hating on the show. If you've enjoyed it all, honestly, if you all have enjoyed it all, but I had to get it out of my system what it was about this show that I was finding boring, pedestrian and beige and average. And it is just like, it's like watching Errol Flynn's Robin Hood with, you know, the plastic swords and the wobbly set, because it's not fantasy, nothing's happening. They're in nice clothing, and it's all very, like the joust in episode 1, it was very ye olde England. Everything is ye olde England. I almost expect anyone who's on the bad side of anything in this programme to twiddle their moustache in a Machiavellian way. That's it for me. The fantasy element, it's either a medieval drama, this is what it is, it's just medieval drama, but if you're going to do a medieval drama, then have some historical fact, and you've still got to in fact, you've still got to have a bit more drama in it, a bit more oomph, which Game of Thrones kind of did in its quieter times, didn't it? It give you some it give you some tits and arse, or it give you some over the top gore and violence. The episode 5, it just had someone's head being caved in at the end. I mean, come on. For the other hour, it was talky, ye oldie, talky. And that's really all I've got. And I'd love for everyone else to bundle me now and go, no, Hog, you're wrong. No, this is fantasy. There is exception. You know, even if there wasn't a lot of fantasy in it, the characters have got to be more, there's got to be more Daemons in it. They've got to be exceptional. Like the guy, you know, the black guy with the white hair and all that. Is he exceptional? No, he's just another bloke, isn't he? The new hand, just another bloke. There's no, and I know the crippled guy has turned up, and you're thinking, oh yeah, and that's all good for the behind the scenes stuff, but there's nothing. It needs to be populated with exceptional, out of the ordinary people. Otherwise, all you've got is a medieval romp. And that's all I've got, to be fair, on the whole thing. That is my review of episodes, because I've done 1 and 2, like I say, which I did enjoy. So I'm not really, you know, I'm not at a level like I am with She-Hulk on this one. And do you know what? I will be watching episode 7, because I still think they've reset it and it's so jarring and unnecessary. I think they could have considered this a whole lot better. They really could have considered this a whole lot better. And, you know, it's got to get better than women in gowns and men in armour. And ye verily, you know, and ye oldie joust and all that. I mean, what was the fight with the mountain? And I know it was, and forgive me, I know it wasn't series 1. And it was, you know, like it was a little bit like David and Goliath. It was the guy from, I don't know, but he was the athletic one, and he was, and you thought, oh my god, and you know the fight I mean, that's just a fight, isn't it? But they were 2 exceptional characters. Where Arya goes, that building where she goes for her training, and you've got that guy who you had to laugh at how he spoke, but anyway, that's how he talked in a lot of films I've seen him in, actually, and he's a good actor, and I digress, we won't go there. That was the exceptional characters and locations and situations I'm talking about. But have a think about what you expect from a fantasy program. And I'm sorry, I expect more. I want to be taken to a place where it isn't just, and this is down to modern storytelling, modern writing. They're adamant in grounding everything now. I've got a lot to say about a few other things that are being done as well, like Batman. I enjoyed the latest Batman, but if they ground Batman anymore, he's just going to be Poirot in a Halloween suit pretty soon. If there's no exceptional qualities about these characters and no exceptional, you know, even if you make it spiritual, like the episode where they're hunting the stag, and they could have made that meat, they could have made the whole thing, and it just ended up with, and I get what they're trying to achieve, but I needed to hammer home on the aspect of the king kind of being helped to catch it and kill it, and old Rhaenyra is off on a, you know, on a side mission, but it was all done very flat, and you could kind of see that they wanted them, and when the stag turned up, beautiful, I get it. But they didn't just pause a moment. There was a film, an early Ridley Scott film with Tom Cruise called Legend. And how they did how he set up the unicorn as that spiritual animal in this. And they was after his horn. The evil guys, the goblins in the forest and all the fantasy characters. And I think it is a fun film. I mean, a load of you. It's kind of like, for me, a little bit of a guilty pleasure, to be fair. And it's Ridley Scott stretching his power from, you know, all that what he'd learned in his advertising. It's in his early days, and Tom Cruise used to look. Well, I know he still looks young, to be fair, but this was when he was actually young, and he looked his age. And it isn't the bestest film in the world, but it looks glorious. And how they made the unicorn work as a mystical character, as that, and they got that spiritual element to it. And they're missing the point. And it's part of this modern storyline, reflecting the world around us and all that. No, don't reflect. You can't make everything fantastic. Otherwise, then everything is bland. All you do is raise the bar, and everything's the same. So yeah, you have got to have the normal world, and then you've got to apply your Tyrion and your Cersei and your Lannisters and your Starks and etc. etc. And you layer it up, and then you lob in the giants and the elves and whatever you're going to do in fantasy. So, but you do need the ordinary part of it. I do, you know, I'm not that stupid of a hog. So, but this one is just that you see a dragon every now and again. Anyway, let me know what you think. Let's get into it, and I will bid you adios.